Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. The day has finally come where we start to go over some of the leaked documents known as the Pandora Papers. This is the first part to an ongoing series that should help illuminate some of the crimes taking place in regards to tax havens. Today I will break down and summarize some of the findings done by Will Fitzgibbon, Debbie Senzipper and Salwan George at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Before we start, let me quickly state that I am not a financial advisor, and that all content discussed in this channel is simply information gathered that I deem important for people to know, so that they can make informed decisions. All efforts are aimed to better understand the nature of the current market in anticipation of the greatest squeeze in financial history. Let's get started. I find no better place to begin than by explaining what the Pandora Papers are. The Pandora Papers are a recent leak of 12 million documents and files that expose the secret wealth and dealings of world leaders, politicians and billionaires. The data was obtained by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which has culminated into being one of the biggest global investigations in history. More than 600 journalists from 117 countries have gone through the leaked documents, looking and exposing hidden fortunes of some of the world's most powerful and dangerous people. Among the most notable findings so far include billionaire owners of more than 1,500 United Kingdom properties using offshore firms, Qatari ruling family avoiding £18.5 million British pounds worth of tax on their super mansion, retail tycoon Philip Green and his wife going on a shopping spree for luxury property as the chain of stores they owned headed towards a collapse, the Czech Prime Minister's omission to declare offshore investment companies that he used to purchase French villas. The stories are countless and new reports keep on being added. There is no end in sight as the amount of discoveries yet to be made. The Pandora Papers reveal a complex network of companies set up in different borders across the globe, which results in hidden ownership of money and assets. For those a bit too smooth-brained, an offshore territory means somewhere where it's easy to set up companies where there is low to no corporate tax, and most importantly, there are laws placed that make it difficult to identify owners of companies. The same destinations are often referred to as tax havens. There are loopholes in the law that allow for the rich and powerful to avoid paying taxes by moving money or setting up companies in tax havens. Government officials and politicians across the world love to talk down about the practice for its clear and ethical violations, but they never even remotely try to do something about it, which goes to show they are all pawns to a larger and more sinister player. If you are looking for a precise number as to how much money is hidden in these offshore companies, estimates range from a minimum of $5.6 trillion to about $32 trillion. The International Monetary Fund says the use of tax havens costs governments worldwide up to $600 billion in lost taxes each year. What we are going to do in this series is not to chit-chat about who got caught hiding what. Instead, as is true to the mission of the channel, we are going to examine the different economic implications this has for everyone. Today's episode goes over how foreign money is being hoarded into American tax havens with the promise of eternal secrecy, so we begin with a tale. The American government has made it almost a marketing campaign to boast about its condemnation of prominent offshore financial centers, where liberal rules and guarantees of secrets tend to draw business tycoons, politicians, dictators and oligarchs. There is no shortage of cases where huge busts have been made on small businesses that secretly worked as money launderers for international drug crimes. A company called the South Dakota Advantage, situated deep in the heart of America, answered to a Colombian textile magnate who was caught laundering the proceeds of a drug ring and an orange juice mogul who got a settlement with Brazilian authorities for colluding to underpay local farmers. In these cases, you will see an important big authority figure on the media saying big words and boasting about America's tireless and relentless efforts to take down offshore financial centers that aim to defraud or bribe Americans, or violate basic human rights. While these politicians are making a whole terror-inducing monologue for the ever-sensationalist media, something dark is happening behind the curtains. American industries are increasingly sheltering trillions of dollars worth of assets from international millionaires and billionaires with the promise of high protection and secrecy that rival that of overseas tax havens. This protection has insulated the industry from oversight and forged new footholds across the states. The Pandora documents that we are going to be discussing in a bit of detail today come from the insides of America's trust industry. The trust documents, for the most part, originate from the Sioux Fall office of Trident Trust, a global provider for offshore services. Journalists have contacted Trident with questions, but I guess the lawyers have told the company that right now, silence is the best tool they have at their disposal. A closer look at some of the documents actually reveal that states have begun competing to lure in wealth, spanning from Alaska, Nevada, Delaware all the way to New Hampshire among other states. In South Dakota alone, assets in trusts have more than quadrupled to $360 billion over the past decade ago. One of their larger trust companies is boasting a roster of international clients from over 50 countries. The rapid expansion of the industry can be attributed to trust company insiders who have pitched attractive proposals for government officials. With little opposition in local and federal governments, since money does not care if you are blue or red, state legislators have turned such proposals into full brazen laws. Some of the politicians asked about these laws have actually said that nobody really understands any of them. Trust companies are prohibited from accepting money generated by criminal activity, but financial experts say the industry should be forced to look beyond convictions, auditing clients based on how wealth was amassed and seeing if such wealth grew because of credible accusations of crimes or human rights abuses. But then the problem expands into being that there is little to no oversight for confirmation of individuals in trust companies. Regulators say regulations are vague and trust secrecy is impossible to breach. Josh Rudolph, a member of the National Security Council, says we fortify thugs and crooks and fail to uphold our values, which further fuel resentment from the population. He also stated that it has become abundantly clear that our national interests are really dependent on keeping this kind of money out even if it's not a financial crime. With little to no transparency in regulation left out by regulators not doing enough oversight for over 2 decades, it's impossible to determine whose money is being managed by trust companies, but that has not stopped industry leaders from quickly coming to defend trust companies such as Trident. Their typical statement follows the basic line of thought that goes, no banking institutions or trust company wants to be accused of abetting and aiding a client with a bad past because a lapse in this could create reputational risks. They state that trust companies work hard to filter out and scrutinize clients as to not get a bad reputation among potential clients, but this logic is a flawed lie. If you are a dictator or politician like Putin, who by the way was also implicated in many of the Pandora leaked documents, what is to stop you from being accepted into a trust company when you have not been convicted of any crimes? We all know that Putin is a dictator who sends his goons to assassinate political rivals and journalists, but he is not a criminal because under the eyes of the law, he has committed no wrong. Billionaire moguls evading taxes through shell foreign companies that have not been convicted due to the secrecy that the trust companies provide get to reap all the benefits. As a trust company, you cannot assume this posture when you are, by default, the tool used to commit criminal acts. This is a completely laughable statement that should be followed by public outrage and mockery. As such, this brings the question back to the government. Through the widely lauded Corporate Transparency Act, there are certain categories of businesses that must disclose the names of their owners to a database managed by the federal government. However, even loopholes were placed into this, as those who create and receive payments from trusts are not mentioned in the law. This makes the whole act a bit redundant because it is self-defeating at its core. Many countries in the European Union already require trusts to report their creators, trustees and beneficiaries to a centralized agency, but America always has to lag and make it a whole ordeal to even debate on passing any form of legislative regulation. Furthermore, there are many other enforcement laws aside from the Corporate Transparency Act that have huge gaps that allow for criminal behavior to foster. For example, under the 1986 Money Laundering Control Act, the government can pursue money laundering cases against foreigners with assets in the United States only if such assets were generated from the proceeds of one of 6 crimes, such as drug trafficking and arms. The law leaves out hundreds of other offenses such as smuggling, child labor, wildlife trafficking, theft of antiquities, counterfeiting and even tax evasion. It is hard to really concise or even address the problem that is taking place because it is so complex in the way it is written on the laws. As such, oversight will continue to lag a couple steps behind this growing issue. Trust companies are becoming incredibly problematic, because they are allowing billionaires and millionaires to hide away their money. Furthermore, the very existence of many of these trust companies actually encourage criminal behavior in many ways. We have chairmen saying they don't even fully understand any of the laws that have been signed. This industry's rapid growth is, by contrast, bringing a lot of negative attention to this matter. With so much money being constantly laundered and hidden here, it is a matter of time before stronger legislation is made to make it illegal, but it might be a while before any of this happens. As for now, all these would be criminals or operating under the freedoms granted by the law, and none of them are really criminals. Instead, What they have done is bribe Congress through years of pitched legislative proposals that protect trusts from creditors, tax authorities, and foreign governments. There is no transparency, and therefore it is almost impossible to determine whose money is being managed. But some very notable figures have already popped, as we previously named. I have another vital component to add to this, but I will leave this for tomorrow's morning video. This is all I have for you guys this morning. Let me know what you think below in the comments. I hope to see you later today. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. You guys are all amazing. If you want to support the channel, I have left links in the description for my Patreon if you would like to pledge a monthly support of any amount you want. I also left a PayPal and Cash App link if you want to make a one-time donation. Have a great day. See you in the afternoon and to the moon.